This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Book.
Let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 79, Speed into the Intersection. Welcome to episode 79 of the Zettelcast, and this episode is titled Speed into the Intersection. And the notion of intersection is directly inspired by what Deb experienced and shared of discovering her process for writing that includes finding two seemingly disparate things and seeing how they intersect and using that as a Mondo story prompt. And so what we want to discuss here is, well, how the rest of us doing that, and how does our +1 Zettelkasten help us do that? So, who'd like to go first?
Well, I may have mentioned that you've got to be spying on me. You've got to be spying on me. There's like a camera up here somewhere. I was literally writing about this yesterday. And the piece that I was exploring is in my monthly newsletter issue number 3. I'll be talking about different components of stories, like frame stories and nesting and temporal disturbance using things like flashbacks or flash forwards, things like foreshadowing, backshadowing. Well, all of those things for me are intersectional. And so as a writer, you have to be able to make choices about where do I want the points to meet and what do those points mean? So just as a quick, easy example, if I have a character that's cruising along in the story and they come to a triggering event that triggers a flashback, and now I'm in a memory, as the writer, I need to decide how does that memory affect the character? And more importantly, why am I using that memory to somehow engage with the reader? And for me, that's the intersectionality. It's not necessarily within the text and working with the text. It's between what the writer is using the text to do in terms of communicating with the reader. So that was the thing that first came to my mind was, as writers, how are we engaging with our audience and using those points in order to either bring them deeper into the narrative, to maybe speed things up, or like with a flashback or a memory piece, that slows the text down. So that's another aspect of it for me, which is how does it affect the time? Because what you do with that point of intersection necessarily changes the time for the reader. The character might be experiencing one day. The reader might read through that and find that that feels like several days, like it almost bends time, again, depending on how you use those points. So those are things that I've been exploring pretty deeply over this last month in preparation to write about it. I've really been working with text differently as I start to really think about, well, what did the writer intend here? Did they want to slow me down or did they want to speed me up? And if you start asking those questions as a reader, you can tell. And then it becomes kind of a cool, like fourth dimension way of reading, because then you're asking yourself, what does the writer want me to do here? So
besides,
so there's that.
Turn the page hungrily.
Right. Yeah.
So was this mostly from the lens of time? The experience of time for the writing that you're doing on your newsletter?
I'm very conscious of time because I've just written a whole newsletter about using time and space. But Um, I think I would say it's a combination of time and perception, because for me, perception is different.
Yeah.
When it has to do with where am I at in the plot and what does that mean? And my own curiosity. So they've planted this breadcrumb over here, and now I can't stop worrying about what's going to happen there. So, in some ways, it's perception too.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when you're reading a finite work of fiction, it has an inherent time box to it.
Yes.
I'm on page 122 of 400, and you have a sense of expectation of how much change should have happened and that you expect to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also, there's an expectation about, I know this is going to end, but now series novels have become so popular.
Yeah.
People don't necessarily think that. They think, I want to get to the end of this one because I want to start the next one.
Yeah.
So, even the continuity throughout something like a series, that's another point that you have to make a choice about as the writer is, where am I going to leave you here and how am I going to get you to over there,
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a million ways to do it. But as a reader, you're aware that it's like watching a sport. It's way more fun to be in the real moment watching it unfold rather than watching the recording later when you know what happens. It's a different dynamic. So I don't know. I don't know.
So how's Wilma helping you manage that?
Oh boy. So full disclosure, because you guys are my homies, you're my original, my OGs. Wilma is a hot mess.
She hasn't been brushed, or no, she's been rode hard and put away wet.
Oh, oh boy. She is out in the pasture like drool and hay in her ears. I mean, she's a big old mess. Yeah, I mean, I'm learning a valuable lesson, and I'm so grateful that I'm learning it now early in this process of managing multiple projects, as opposed to going on down the road and then realizing that, like, Wilma's at the glue factory. It's bad. So I got into a very bad habit of, when I was working on a particular project, I would use what I call a satellite box. Or sometimes I would use one of these, which is a little kind of stand-up file thing. I would pull all the cards that I needed, and then as I had a thought, I'd go to my index, I'd pull more, and I would create this sort of little satellite sandwich of cards that I'd be working with. Well, if I was following my due diligence as a library page, when I finished said project, I would go to the stacks and file all of those things. Oh no! I have a pile like bigger than my head of note cards that I just keep adding them on the pile, and it's sitting over there giving me the stink eye, and I know Wilma, she's mad. Boy, she's mad. So yeah, I literally scheduled out a block of time. Next Sunday, I'm going to spend the whole day, and all I'm going to do is sort and file and brush and, file hooves. I'm going to do all the things and get Wilma back into shape, because I can't work like this. I'm like, I am my own student's worst nightmare in that I've been really bad. So I have some piles. At least I was smart enough to pile things by project. So like, I know, okay, these were for only this, these were for only that. So at least they're grouped in loose collections by what I was working on, which will help. So if I have any word of advice to the chaos monsters out there, at least group things same with same, so you know what you're looking at rather than just a big random pile. Hot mess aside, however, um, she did her job. I mean, I've cranked out a lot of work in the last 60 to 90 days, including almost completely writing a textbook. And she did her job. And the things I pulled notwithstanding, I was able to go find what I needed to find, make discoveries in the looking for things, which honestly that's probably the most valuable thing that she does is everything that's in there is in there because it's of interest to me and I put it there. So it's not like I'm running across random weird stuff like when you Google something and you're just like, what's all this? And a lot of the times I look at those things next to each other and I think to myself, I wrote that. That's really good. That's a great question. So I'm in conversation with myself in addition to being in conversation with her. So it's very much a communication as I find these points where things cross over and then make decisions about, do I want to go down that road or do I want to go down that one? And often she'll tell me, because it's like, okay, you've got a good chunk of material on this, which you could turn into a fully fleshed out thought, write it out. But over here, this is really just a baby idea. So you probably shouldn't go down that road because that's a research rabbit hole. So, she kind of keeps me in my lane because of what's in there. And that's really helpful too, because I'm rabbit hole central, man. If I can sit here and research for 6 hours, like I'm happy as a clam. And she keeps me from doing that because when I see that's just an idea, I don't have time for that. She's like, get back to work. She bites me.
Well, I can relate, and I have sworn to Zeke that these will never be scattered amongst my drawers again. And I'm keeping the whole stack as a reminder that this can indeed happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels a whole lot better when they're ready where I can grab one when I need it. They're for anybody, these are my little famous out cards. And when I pulled
Hmm.
something from my writing, would leave a little out card. So when I went back there, I wouldn't have to go, zero in on the spot. I could put it right where it went. You don't want to be opening
Yeah.
your doors and seeing out, 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 out.
I was just gonna say, I knew I was in deep doo-doo when I reached for, I recycle postcards, birthday cards, whatever I have. And that's what I use. I knew I was in trouble when I reached for some and there were none. And I was like, oh man, this is not good.
Well, Kathleen,
Yeah.
over to you.
Okay.
How do you manage, how do you use intersections in your work?
Okay. Well, it was a wonderful prompt for me, and I had to just sit on my hands to avoid turning it into a story prompt, which I almost did. In fact, I created a couple of story cards because both of my characters are coming upon a crossroads. And I know that's in the traditional story sense and not in the collision of ideas sense of the terms. And I will get back to that because I did go back to the right topic, but I couldn't resist, you know, as I did my exercise, thinking about my characters who were in the crossroads. And out of that thought process came an intersection because both of my characters are facing a major, major crisis and change in their lives. And in both cases, it's pulling them out. Helen, where we left her last, was pining for not having had a conversation with an artificial flower. And that starts weighing on her head because she's saying, I don't have any conversations anymore. Since
Yeah.
the kids are scattered, they're still theoretically living at home, but their lives are anywhere else. And since the kids aren't always home, Freddie isn't bringing people home as much. She used to bring people home for dinner all the time. She never knew how many she was going to have for a meal. Um, and now Freddie's off with his group. And so it's dawning on her that she's become very isolated. And she goes through this little victim thing at first. And then it dawns on her that for as many years as they've been here, and as many years as Freddie's been involved in other social activities, he has never stopped saying, "Want to come along?"
Oh,
Even though she has
love you,
never said
Freddie.
yes. So that's her crossroads. Am I going to say, "Hey, yeah,
And then have to pick him up off the floor.
yeah." Hopefully that won't be the
Nice.
time he's got other plans and was counting on having a one-on-one conversation with a dear friend who needed advice or something, that would be a problem with. But um, so but by the same token, Teresita is really, really facing a major life transition because she's has been nonverbal. And Bala has brought her into the world of verbiage, and she's gotten to the point where she can't understand whole conversations on the link because the link people are think so fast because there's no friction in the link, and they think in symbols and references and allusions to past and future and conversations that she can only pick up a word here or there. But she's starting to pick up on it, and that's the nature of the human mind. The more you're exposed to language and conversations, the more you begin to pick up, and you don't know how it happens, but it does. And so she's starting to become more verbal, but she ended up in this is the moment, standing next to the tree Jinx, wearing her Bezier belt when she encounters Chris and Jenna. And
Mhm.
so as that scene progresses, she notices the delight and the longing in Jenna's eyes for her or when she sees the Bezier belt. Jenna
Mm.
gets what it would be, has not yet worn one, but it's just kind of she, even without the link, she picks up on the emotions that Jenna's feeling of, that I want one too, that
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, Jenna had the vicarious connected experience being arm in arm with
yeah,
someone who was wearing it.
yeah,
And it was fantastic. But what's it like when it's around your
yeah,
waist?
yeah. And so without any hesitation at all, Teresita is going to take off the belt and offer it to Jenna, which of course Jenna's going to be saying, no, no, I can't do that. I can't take that. But she's going to pick up a pile of bast and hold the belt in one hand and the bast in the other and manage to stammer out, "These are both the same," and hand Jenna the belt.
Oh, that's lovely.
Because she knows she can make another one.
Yeah.
So, but she's going to have a real hard time. It's going to be almost unintelligible because she doesn't have mouth musculature
Yeah.
and they're not in the link. So this is where I think I'm going to bring my characters together now because she's going to need someone to work with her to help her formulate words. And Helen decides that she really doesn't want to be a babysitter at the link and decides to volunteer at the school.
Okay. Yeah.
And so she's going to end up coaching Teresita, just being a voice practice coach.
Nice. Nice. Much more. Well, yeah. Helen's life has brought her to a new place where she didn't know she wanted to go,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but here she is. Yeah.
yeah,
This is a big improvement.
yeah, yeah. And she'll probably get that offer through saying yes to Freddie and meeting someone who is saying, well, why don't you volunteer at the school? They can always use help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Mm.
was it. Those were the intersections. But then to get to the philosophical question,
Yeah.
the real question, which is the where do intersections happen? Well, in my work, which is the character traits, and my book is titled Writing with Emotion. Well, I don't tell you how to bleed on the page, and I don't tell you how to describe emotions. There's a nice book called The Emotion Thesaurus that does a good job of that. What my what my stuff does is it shows writers how to set up situations that call forth emotions so that the intersection pops off the page. The pops into the character, but it's not voiced what the character is feeling, and it pops into the reader, but the reader is not told how to feel. So that the intersection happens in another dimension. And of course, I do use Zeke because I've got a whole section on the character traits. And so of course I'm going to use Zeke for that, mostly to delineate the lines, because the crazy thing about these character traits and the thing that makes them a challenge to work with is that if you're fuzzy, you can't create the emotion in the reader. You have to nail down what the struggle really is, and then it can spark something in the reader. So it's a I don't want to call it an art because it's actually information, but it feels like an art once you're comfortable with the information.
I
Yeah,
would say
the
it's a craft.
information is um, only partially verbal.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I spend 24 pages in each one of my newsletters, because more than half of those pages are spent on creating a tie in my reader to that key word. And by the time we're done, it's not that, oh, I know the definition of that word so well. It's that word becomes a stand-in for that ball of emotions that you now understand more deeply. And that word is just the trigger that tells your subconscious mind those emotions, the ones we've been playing with, those.
Yeah.
And they can stay a ball because you don't that kind of thing you don't want to pull into a thread. What you want to pull into a thread that you can feel and touch with your hands is the circumstance
Yes.
that brings up the struggle, that brings up the emotion.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's almost always a crossroads. And that's why we talk about the rudder position, the place where you're making a decision because you're driving the boat. When does it matter? When you're making turns. And what is it? That's your crossroads, even if it's out in the middle of a lake.
Mhm.
So process-wise, Kathleen, besides out cards, how is Zeke helping you um, in this mission? It's a long journey you're
Yeah,
going through.
yeah,
You've written the book, you've done your course, you're going through the character traits in a sequence,
yeah.
and that's just the first pass.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I'm now researching for my second pass because I've come to this strange realization that, wait a minute, we're dealing with a Fibonacci series here. If we're dealing with a Fibonacci series, we can make a graph. And if we can make a graph, that has implications for development. Do they hold? And so I've probably shown it more than once. The character traits can be arranged in a flower, with the outermost ring being the traits that have to do with interactions with other people, and the innermost ring having to do with where do you gain your insights for the world or inner world? How do you think? How do you organize your thoughts? How do you learn? And then the physical universe, then control of your own behavior, and then interactions with others. And there's developmental pathways that are implied by this, these little spirals that you see in a pine cone or that you see in a pineapple, or a galaxy that turn into the arms of the galaxy. And that implies a developmental pathway. And so this is basically a hypothesis generating machine for developmental psychology, for positive psychology. And that's why I'm trying to read the the greatest books that I can find in developmental psychology, positive psychology, the theology of virtue, and the philosophy of human morality to see what others spotted these pathways, or have they spotted some other pathway that is counterintuitive, that this diagram would say does not lead you to. I mean, I need to know, does it lead to something useful? Does it put blinders on you that you don't see other things that would be useful? You gotta look at both sides. You gotta look at what falsifies, what supports. And that's my current study plan, which is why I'm so excited that Victoria Crowder is planning a YouTube series on the Zettelkasten
Do you feel
personal
it?
curriculum. Loving her Zettelkasten for fiction writing. And I am so thrilled to have learned today that series is coming along, because I will definitely be a student of that series.
So I just want to leap in and plug all this whole line of thinking where we're talking about fiction to nonfiction.
Oh,
I don't know how many hours in corporate life people have attended presentations and internal training and training by experts about how to present in business. And they always tell you, you're telling a story.
Hmm.
And they tell you you're telling a story, and the training takes an hour. And the people who have a sense of how to tell a story are the ones who do well there. And, in corporate life, the story you're always telling is why you are going to win in life by doing business with me,
Mm. Yeah.
or how you have been winning in life by virtue of the
Yeah.
fact that you're doing business with me, and how I understand your business, and blah, blah, blah. But
Hmm.
all of the emotions of empathy and circumspection and all of those are super important in that realm. And whenever you're up in front of other people, you're telling a story. So how do you hit the beats and construct
Mm.
it so that at the end people are, running up the aisle with swords in their hands saying, yeah,
Which was where Victoria comes in.
exactly, exactly. So
Well, it's
so
I'll
just
take that ball for one
you
second
do that, yeah.
because I want to point to Kathleen because very early on in our conversations about fiction, about building a community, all of those visions that we had between us, she broke that down and she told a great story about how when she would be faced with some kind of a production or a problem, her first inclination, and it's a great story, like I was in, is she would want to go and sit with that person having the problem, sit in their chair, see what their problem was, talk to them about it, do all of that information gathering, and then she could start to formulate some kind of a solution. And I think that speaks exactly to what you're talking about, Julianne, which is how do you know what the story is and parse that so that you can find the solution for someone? You have to sit in their chair, whether that's being in a character's head or understanding, Mr. Client, what is your real problem or pain, and then, using my tools and skills to bring you a solution. But she described it beautifully, which is you got to be in the person, whether it's a character or a client.
Yep.
And with bugs, it drove me crazy to hear stories of IT people coming to help when their program crashed, and basically blaming the crash on the user. Well, what did you put a stupid number in there like that for?
Yeah.
Okay, that's, they thought it was the zip code field. What's the problem?
Yeah.
It didn't know you wanted
Yeah.
a number from 1 to 10. But
Yeah.
so my reaction with that was to always treat the computer program that I had written as though it were my potentially naughty child.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be the two of us. Ugh, we gotta endure this skit. Look at and he went and crashed. That's like giving you the raspberries. That's just rude. All right, I gotta go teach my program some manners.
Right.
And that worked. But we also can treat other problems as though the problem itself is the external. And I think more than ever before, that is something that we all need to be able to do whenever we come up with conflict or disagreements or butting heads and say, okay, let's take this thing, this that is causing the division and treat it as though it were a naughty child. What are we gonna do to get some sense into this bratty kid?
Who we love.
And it takes a village.
Right.
So let's be the village.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do agree, you have to know, and you do want to know, Victoria, which is why why you're getting the kind of response that you're getting from your book and why you're getting the letters and the posts I even read them on LiLLiPub where people are just practically dancing cartwheels because you address the problems that people actually face and the things that really stop them from writing, and you release hope. Because hope is always going to well up within us. You give it a place to break loose to the surface.
Mm.
You're here.
Nice.
Well, Deb, what would you like to say about intersections?
The instigator of the whole thing.
Indeed. You're on mute, just so you know. There you
I
go.
had a little sneezing thing, so okay. Anyway, I'm just standing here at my standing desk, just in awe of the tendrils. I mean, it's just, it just goes and goes. Because when I think about juggling stuff and coming up with an intersection, I'm not. I don't go into or at least I don't consciously go into psychological waters. Not consciously, but clearly. Right. Oh, and so I got this. I ended up writing a little piece, cool. And I'm wanting to get my little corner of the world sort of straightened out and give it some legs so it can move about and be of help. But the intersection that I thought about as a result of this assignment was a locomotive. A fiery, red hot, moving forward locomotive trucking down the tracks, meeting the unstoppable. What happens when the unstoppable meets this unstopping locomotive? Mm-hmm. And they're there and they come to the intersection. When they meet, what is it like at that intersection? What happens there? What is it like? What does it feel like to be there, to live there, to love there, to lose there, to be there, to live there? So it's at the crossing. At Iron Throat, where burning coal turns will, a restless engine strains against the night. No hand can halt the force it comes to fill. No brake can tame its self-converting might. The rails divide like choices split in two. One path made soft with promise, safe and slow. The other lit with something fierce and true, a glow no cautious heart can come to know.
Mhm.
She feels the pull of comfort in her chest, a ghost of doubt that lingers near the hand, yet deeper still, a louder, truer crest declares a law she now can understand. Not that she cannot stop, but will not cease, for forward motion is her only peace.
Oh,
Wow.
So that
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah. So
Hmm.
and what did my Zettelkastens have to do with this? Well, she's still a little bit all over the place, but she's coming together, kind of like Mercury on she's coming together. She's pulling herself together,
uh-huh.
recognizing that oh, these are my parts. I need to congeal. I need to come together, right? So, and I don't know if this is appropriate or not. I made an avatar,
Oh,
right? An avatar for my Gray Hair Matters,
oh,
Yeah.
right? And then I found out there's this crazy app that will allow you to take a still image and create a video from it.
uh-huh.
So I did that.
Oh.
I did that. So
Would you like to share that?
yes.
Kweli is Swahili for truth. I speak for a community called Gray Hair Matters, where seniors, told by a youth-worshiping culture that their stories don't count anymore, prove otherwise, through writing, through memories, through witnessing. Leswatu is our word, our greeting, and our name. Consider it an invitation for yourself or someone you know and love.
That image, that woman who was shown there was created by Gemini,
Uh-huh.
right? Or the thing, the graphic creating part of Gemini,
Uh-huh.
something banana, you know. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And then this other program came along, and it actually synced up her lips and everything to whatever it is that I wanted it to say.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that that's a doggone massive intersection,
Yeah.
right there, you know. So I I'm hoping that this works. That's all. That's
Oh,
all.
it'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know your group is going to work. It's very, very, very much needed. I think your avatar is lovely too. Haley Renee in her recent newsletter was talking about a big phenomenon in Japan where she is living right now of 2.5D. It's where authors create an avatar that's an AI image animated, but the words spoken are the author's own, which is it's not quite 3D, which would have been the author speaking it, but so they've got this fictionalized character speaking the creator's own words. And I'm thinking that's what you just produced was a 2.5D explaining a little bit about your group and why you want to form it.
Right. I'm trying to work out whether or not she can appropriately be a spokesperson for the group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But she's about 50-ish or so.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I saw that 20 years ago more. So it made sense to me for it not to be my voice. It's not my voice. It has to be a spokesperson's voice. But but of course, yes, she's speaking my words. Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I okay, good. So I'm not. I need to be. Seems to me I need to stop talking or stop typing so much when I'm doing my brainstorming and begin to speak because I decided that I don't speak enough.
Okay.
I don't speak enough. And so when it's time for me to speak, it comes out kind of raggedy, so need to it's like how do you remember something? You have to recall it, you have to use it. So
You're like Helen.
like Helen. Like Helen. Like Helen. Yeah, so this is where I'm at. So thank you guys.
Super. So intersections have really been a theme in my entire professional life
Mm.
because for some reason, whenever I began to learn how to write software programs, along with that came this capability to recognize, well, hey, we're making it do this thing. It could also do this other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And everything flowed like that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the intersection is not, it's join in on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got this little sign back there that says yes and.
Mm-hmm.
And even before I knew that I was yes-anding, that is my default stance, which is to take whatever I got and recognize. So I'm not being systematic about saying, well, here are all the things that I could add. It's very intuitive
Mm-hmm.
that something else pops up. And so the whole Roanoke project for me is all about that in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how I am discovering what I'm doing. What a theme that only, I certainly hope that I'm not going to be hitting it like a hammer. But I do hope that it comes through the book. Comes from my agile coaching days. And the number one principle, there are four major principles of agile. The number one is what Kathleen embodied in her sitting in the seat of the other person, is that software development, or really the creation of any product, it's much more about people and interactions than processes and tools. Now, as an Agile coach in a big corporate environment, that message was like, yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
Because what I saw around me, and I'm not singling out one soulless corporation. It was all soulless corporations that viewed it as a project management tool with a lot of fluffy language to ignore. And this sort of broke my heart because it's not really about the job. It's about how to be with people.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the things that I was trying to help people, coaching people to do in this corporate job, which was really running up against an entirely other set of values, um, including the cynicism of the people that I am coaching because they know, oh, this is just the flavor of the month.
Mhm.
Um, but the challenge that I had was, this is really not about work. Just be this way.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that it's the kinds of practices that are inherent in agile development that I am sneaking into the book because they're valuable.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of and part of how my Zettelkasten is helping me is I've mentioned it before, it helps me spot the gaps. Some of these things that I want to sneak in, I know them so well, I haven't had to write a card for them in order to know them well. But to recognize this belongs in the world of the story, that's that's grace. I don't know. But one of the there are certain practices that you do in agile development. Several different practices. It's basically how you get through your day and how you get through a sprint, which is a segment of the project that
Yeah.
is tightly circumscribed so you don't get lost in
Yeah.
rabbit hole land. And at the end of the sprint, but really at the end of every interaction, there's a thing called the retrospective.
Mhm.
And a colleague of mine, a wonderful colleague of mine at my former job, said the retrospective is the one practice without which you cannot say you're being agile.
Oh.
And so it is that kind of, well, we're just following along with these people in this world, and some of them just do that all the time.
Yeah.
They don't question it. You have a little conversation, and it's not like who's taking notes and action items, which is how you turn it into the cynical, soulless thing.
Yeah.
But just as like I've just been through something, that recognition, okay, what is it that I've just been through? What do I take from it? What went well? What could I do better? And that is where growth just naturally occurs. And so that long-winded thing is just to say that what I will, as a conflict avoiding person, have to probably more intentionally run the locomotive into the unstoppable wall.
Yeah.
But for right now, we're singing along and the highway's getting wider and wider and wider.
That's awesome.
And I'll say
Well, I think
besides just to close this off, sorry, that besides my Zettelkasten, Nadia Z, helping me realize, that's not in here. All the things that are in here and the practice of indexing, which I do in downtime. I now know, don't be in a hurry with that.
Yeah.
Do it in the downtime, but do it regularly in the downtime so you don't end up with the piles and piles. it just sort of keeps the salad freshly tossed.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love your Z log because that's what makes delayed indexing possible. So I just keep my Z log, out by the TV. So all I have to do is tote my index, which is in a separate tray, tote it out there and, um, you know, be in the vicinity of my spouse and index while he has something on TV. He's a fan of antique radio repair, which I'm acquiring way too much knowledge about. I can tell you right now that capacitor is going to have to be changed out as a paper cap, and it's guaranteed to be leaky. But in the meantime, I'm indexing, and that came from you. So I thank you very much for that.
Yeah, well, we snowball against each other without the taglines. The index would be,
Yeah. Oh, what
yeah,
would you do? Yeah, what would you use? Yeah.
yeah. So speed toward the intersections, folks.
Yeah.
Kathleen, where should people find us?
You should come to LiLLiPub.org. My gosh, this place is jumping. If you are not taking advantage of an $8 a month opportunity to have your interactions uplifted, your mind blown, your writing take off, I don't know what you're waiting for because LiLLiPub.org is alive and it's where we hang out when we're not here in YouTube land. So come on over. It won't be $8 a month forever. But if you sign up at $8 a month, for you, it will be $8 a month forever.
Yeah.
See you there.
Yes. Thank you, ladies, and thank you all for being here. Give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next week.